Hey YouTube beauties, I hope everyone is doing good today. I hope you're all doing excellent. I hope everybody is well. If you have any plans this weekend, be safe. I had plans today, but I canceled them because I'm like, I don't need to be partying 2 days in a row. So my son was supposed to go to a party today, but I told him, no, you can't go. It's just something about it didn't feel right to me. So I'm like, nah. So I told him, I was like, I canceled my plans for today. We could do something. We could do whatever. He's like, no. So he in his mood, whatever. That's one thing I hate about these damn teenagers. Like, he 14. I swear he was the perfect child up until he turned 12. Like, so those of y'all with teenagers, y'all know what I'm talking about. They be so annoying. They think that the world revolves around their social life, and when you give them a punishment that they deserve, they be in their feelings. Like, boy, bye, and the world continues. But yeah, so today I wanted to talk about my third and fourth cycle, and I wanted to talk about guy friends. Now, for the most part, sometimes you do have good guy friends, but a lot of times they're not good guy friends, y'all. Like, I was really sitting and thinking about it, and I'm like, the guy friends that I've had over my lifetime, they wasn't true friends at all. One of them from high school, we talk on the phone, but he's not a true friend at all. And I'm gonna tell y'all everything that he did, and I forgave it. But and then recently I told y'all about Jelani. He wasn't a true, like, he was a good friend, but he the type of person, he'll cut you off for any reason at any given time. That's not a true friend. And I'm gonna tell y'all about my old coworker. He's not a true friend. Wasn't a true friend. He just was friends with me because he wanted to hit. So we gonna get into that. Okay. So first I wanted to talk about my third cycle. Technically he's the second one, but since I already talked about the Mexican, like, I should have talked about him before the Mexican because I actually wasn't going to talk about this because it's like, I felt like it was embarrassing. But I'm like, it happened so long ago. But anybody who come for me in the comments, your comment will be removed. So I'm not doing that. Everybody makes mistakes. And I'm learning to be more comfortable after watching story times on YouTube. And I'm like, you know what? Why not talk about it? Because for me personally, I don't just talk to talk. My goal is to encourage others. Yeah, so I'm like, instead of holding the phone, I got my tripod. Okay, so basically, yes, I said, let me talk about this story because I know a lot of kids watch my channel, and I wish I had somebody older or somebody, like, I always had older people to talk to, but when I was 18 and 19, I had nobody to talk to. I had friends, but I knew better than them. You get what I'm saying? I was the guidance person, whatever, but I didn't have guidance of my own. And I remember when I talked to my old coworker, she was older too, pre-pandemic. She was like, you have any guidance? You have a mom to talk to? I said, no, I can't talk to my mom because my mom is holy. She one of those. I can't talk to my father because he's the type of person, he'll take what you say and twist it. I actually know somebody right now, like, you tell her you bought apples and oranges, she'll be like, you bought bananas? And it's like, I never said that. That's very annoying. That's people who I say come to their own conclusions. You tell them something and then that's very annoying. I don't know where that stems from, but you have people like that. So people like that, I try not to talk to because it's like, they weird. You tell them something and they draw their own conclusions. Just doesn't make sense. But I can't speak for all YouTubers, but for me personally, I tell my stories to encourage other people. So maybe they could look at my stories, learn from it, and don't make the same mistakes. And pretty much that's what I've done in my friendships. a lot of things I've avoided in my life because of what people told me. And I said, okay, I'll do that. Going back to school, choosing certain jobs or certain, I get ideas from other people. And that's how you learn initially, right? It's good to experience things for yourself, but I'm happy that I do listen. So, get into the story time. Picture it, Brooklyn, 2007 and 2008. This story goes that long, right? So, I grew up in church. I was in the choir, and the church I used to go to, it was down a block from where my parents lived in East New York on Fountain Avenue. So basically, I was cool with the girl, but I didn't consider her a friend because I didn't know her outside of church. But I guess she looked to me as a friend. So basically, one day she asked to use my phone, and I let her. And so one day I'm going through my phone, and I'm thinking it's one of my dudes, because, I used to talk to a lot of dudes or whatever. Not necessarily hung out with them, but I would talk to them. So I decide one day when I'm bored, I decide to call a number. So I find out it's someone that is from the girl who used my phone from church is one of the dudes, she messed with. Mind you, also this dude, I consider him to be a pedophile because he was 23 and she was 15, and he was well aware of her age. Just keep that in mind. This is a 23-year-old grown man, and she was a little girl. She was 15. So that's another reason why I didn't really see her as a friend, because she was young. I was 19, but I've always been a type of person to hang out with people my own age or older. So, she's 15, he's 23, right? Just keep that in mind. So he's like, let's hang out, let's meet up. So at first I'm like, well, if you chill with her, why would you want to chill with me? So I'm like, okay, I'm bored. And I remember that day that I met him, I went to go get my hair done. At this time, my friend from high school, mom, used to do my hair all the way in Queens. So I'm coming from the hair salon, and I go and meet him, and he had terrible, terrible, terrible breath. And he had a body odor. I remember that distinctly. And he was not attractive at all. He was light-skinned, but I didn't find him attractive at all. So I was just shocked, like, this is who she talked to, this is who. And mind you, I'm 19, so I'm not thinking anything of it, because she had told me they never went on a date, right? And he said they never went on a date. But yet they claimed each other as boyfriend and girl. Like, he didn't really say that was his girlfriend, whatever. Mind you, like I said, this was an associate. This was not a friend. It's not like I was, you did this to your friend. No, it wasn't anything like that. However, I guess she looked at me as a friend. I never hung out with her outside church. We never even spoke on the phone, because she barely had a phone. That was one. And number two, when she did have a phone, it was prepaid. So she didn't really talk to nobody. So he was very demanding, and he was very like, and that's what I wanted to talk to my girls. Like, never let a guy make you feel like you have to, right? So I could truly say, out of my lifetime, out of everybody I've been with, it was 2 guys, including him, that made me feel like I had to, or that, I felt like, not necessarily raped, but kind of like, whatever. So, which was my son's father and him, right? So this guy, he just would not take no for an answer. He kept blowing up my phone, blowing up my phone, blowing up my phone. And I finally gave in, and he drove up to where I was living, my parents. And so, that happened. And I told him right away, I said, I am not interested in you. Please lose my number. It wasn't even because of her. It wasn't even because of her. I just knew within myself I wasn't interested in him. I wasn't attracted to him. There was nothing about him that I liked. His mentality, like we had spoke on the phone. He just seemed like a weirdo to me, right? And what was his name was Mark, by the way. His name was Mark. So we did whatever in November 2007. Mind you, he's calling my phone, blowing up my phone, to the point when I wanted to give my phone to my father. And I was telling my father, I'm like, yo, it's somebody that's blowing up my line. You know, it's really, and that's one of the things I could truly say. Like, sometimes my father just didn't, I don't know if it was he didn't care, or I just felt like he didn't protect me enough, honestly. Because it's like, if your 18-year-old daughter is telling you that some guy is blowing up her phone, as a father, you should take action. As a father, you should be like, well, let me talk to the nigga, like, and he never did that. So I don't know what that was about, but I'll never forget it. And so he kept calling my phone. He would call me from private. So mind you, I'm 18 and I didn't know how to be aggressive. Now I do. Now I know to threaten police, and that's for my final psycho story. So, he's calling my phone. He's calling me from different numbers. He's calling me from private. This guy was crazy. So this guy called me so much, guys. This was November 2007. That Mother's Day 2008, his real girlfriend, she calls me and she's like, what's going on between you and my boyfriend and this and that? I said, nothing is going on. We did something in November one time, but did you see the messages? She's like, yes, I did, but I thought it continued. I was telling this guy whatever just so he could leave me alone. I told him I'm pregnant and engaged. I got the ring that Jelani gave me from 7th grade, and I put it on my finger. I'm like, I'm pregnant and engaged. After I told him I was pregnant and engaged, he kind of stopped. But he was calling me so much that his real girlfriend had and I was kind of happy she contacted me because, and at this time, the girl from church is telling me like, oh yeah, I found out that dude, he got a girlfriend, this and that. I never told her like, by the way, whatever, because I knew it was something that wasn't a good thing, so, but I wanted to tell her like, listen, he kind of pushed me to do it. I didn't want to do it or whatever. But me being young and naive and not really thinking things through, I should have been more honest with her, because what ends up happening later is just crazy. So the girlfriend is like, oh, so that's not his baby? I said, hell no. We did something in November and this is Mother's Day. I said, no, absolutely not. Trust and believe. So me and her, I kid y'all not, me and her was on the phone for 3 hours. We were on the phone for 3 hours. So she goes, oh, everything you saying, I'm going to go tell him. And so that's what made me hang up. I said, yo, it's Mother's Day. I'm about to go out to dinner with my mom. You have a good day. Because it's like, you called me to talk to me for 3 hours to tell me that you going to stay with this dude that's been harassing me and going psycho on me. That should make you, like, why would you want to be with somebody like that? If I found out my dude was harassing the next chick that don't even want to talk to him, that would be a turn off to me. That would be a great turn off to me. And then I saw her. I said, do you know that he was messing with the girl from my church and she's 15 years old? Like, he's a pedophile. Your dude is 23. Yeah, I'm 19. But this other girl is 15. And it was just crazy and baffling to me. I'm like, what did you call me for? Like, what did you call me for? And I just hung up on her like, it's Mother's Day. Go be with your mother. Why you going through a nigga phone and calling the next chick on Mother's Day? Go be with your mother. Like, really. So after that now, the girl from my church, she finds out because he was in his feelings. So once I spoke to his real girlfriend, he tells the girl from my church went down. Why he did that, I don't know. But she finds out and she's like, oh, so you was telling him to leave me? I said, it's not even like that. I didn't even say it in that context. I said what I told him was, doesn't he care about you? And he blowing up my shit, and he was going harassing my shit. That's the part of the story that I said you should look through his phone if he lets you, and you see how many times he was calling me. This nigga used to dead call me 20 times a day. It was crazy from November 2007 to Mother's Day. Like, it was crazy. Both my parents knew about it too. And then my mother was an instigator. She was like, oh, you know, what if she want to fight you and this and that? I'm like, y'all supposed to be my parents. Y'all supposed to have my back. And like, I didn't get no type of, he's wrong for what. Nobody stopped to say he's wrong for what he did, because this girl is 15 years old. Nobody stopped. The only person that saw the logic in the whole situation was my friend at the time, the one I was in her wedding. She's like, hold on, why nobody is like, everybody's saying that I'm wrong for whatever, but at the end of the day, he's harassing me. He's blown up my phone. I told him to leave me alone. And then this guy is messing with a 15-year-old. But nobody sees that in the whole situation. And even years after this, my father would bring it up constantly. I don't know why, you know, but he would bring it up, you know, just in different scenarios that happen. Because there's so much to this story, y'all. So basically, the girl from my church, she was very upset. She had her friends around her and stuff. So mind you, I'm pregnant at this time. So she comes over to my parents' house and she act like she's all cool, calm, and collected. So I admit I was talking crap over the phone to her because, again, I'm young and naive. At this time, I'm 19 years old. I was 18 at the time I did something with him, but I was 19 at the time of my pregnancy. So she's in her feelings and she's like, oh, what if I would have messed with Shaheem? I said, you can't compare it because Shaheem was actually into me. This dude just using you, and y'all didn't go nowhere, only to the movies one time, according to him and you. So you can't compare it. Like, and I said, secondly, if you would have messed with Shaheem, I would not care. Like, I don't cry over spilled milk. That's never been my style. And first of all, you 15 years old sleeping around with grown men. That ain't cute. Like, that's not cute at all. So, I admit it. I was talking a whole bunch of crap. I was. And I was saying to her, I said, why are you so mad at me? Why are you not mad at him? Like, he's the one that broke your virginity. He's the one that lied to you. He's the one that did all of this. And when I thought back on it, she did look at me as a friend. And I didn't realize that we were friends. I had no clue. We never hung out nowhere. Like I said, we didn't talk on the phone. I would just see her at church. And then a lady from church, her name was Shoshonia. She was like, oh, you and her, y'all was best friends. Y'all sat next to each other. How are we best friends because we sit next to each other in church? What? And we in the choir together, so that makes us best friends? No, I didn't know her personally. I know things that she told me, but I wouldn't consider her a friend. Like, she's just somebody I went to church with. So what I had did at the time, I didn't feel like it was wrong because I didn't see her as a friend. My other friend that I was in her wedding, I saw her as a friend because I was in her house every Sunday. Her mother would cook. We was on the phone. She knew everything about me. I knew everything about her. That was my friend. She was the godmother of my child. What else? She came to my baby shower. I went to hers. Like, we was friends. Like, I was in her wedding. That girl, we were friends. This girl, I didn't know her outside of church. So as far as I'm concerned, she was just my choir member, whatever. So I'm like, all right, I know it was wrong for what I did because at the end of the day, I wasn't feeling him. And I know that was her dude. But other than that, you know, it was just crazy. So it blew up out of proportion. The whole church knew. And so, oh, she's at my parents' house, whatever. So I'm thinking everything is cool. We walk out to the hallway into the elevator. This bitch drops her arm, and I fall to the floor, and I'm chasing her. I'm like, yo, I couldn't catch her. I'm like, yo, that was such a punk move, and she knew I was pregnant. It's like, you know I'm pregnant, and you pretty much drop kick me and run. That pissed me off so much. And I was telling I called the ambulance because at this point I think I'm having a miscarriage. I start having pain. I start feeling it in my stomach. And we go to, I think it was Brookdale Hospital we went to. And I'm having a miscarriage because I'm getting so much pain. And I'm like, yo, so much craziness. So I called my supervisor and I'm like, yo, I can't make it into work tomorrow. She's like, why? I was like, I've been assaulted. She was like, why? You da 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 da. And I was like, what? Like, how you just automatically assumed that? I was like, no. And I hung up. Like, she was just all up in the business. So at this point, I'm just pissed. I'm angry. I'm all of that. So I decide to, now this was like the end of May. Was it? No, this was June. Because that following Sunday, I told my father how I felt and he agreed. And so I planned on calling the cops. And it's the worst thing I ever did in my life, y'all. Again, my father should have told me, like, just let it go. Like, what she did was wrong, but for me to call the cops on her was just not good. So anyway, I call the cops on her. We at church now. I call the cops on her. They arrest her. I'm in my feelings. I'm like, you know what? She had no right to touch me. I'm pregnant. She knew I was pregnant. And yes, I was going to press charges on that ass. And so something came over me and was like, nobody told me this. Not even my father. Something just told me, let it go, Crystal. Let it go. You know, not because I know what I did was wrong, but it just was sad that this guy that I didn't even like, he made the whole situation. And after this, I had to stop going to that church because obviously my business was all over. It started to get whack anyway. Like, you know, everybody was going away to college and stuff like that. We couldn't dance no more. People was complaining, saying that we was doing too much secular music. So it started to get whack anyway. And I was going to leave anyway. And this lady named Shoshonia, she was like, why are you leaving? And this and that. And it's funny because she left, right? Like, so many people left after me and my parents left. So many people left behind us because of different instances that was happening in this church. So my dad decided to leave with me because of the way they handled the situation. So when I called the cops and everything on her and everybody knew what had happened, everybody knew I was pregnant and she assaulted me, people were on her side because they felt like, oh, I messed around with her dude, so I deserved it. And then a lady from the church, she actually said that to my friend. And my friend was like, you're a whole grown woman and you're saying this about a pregnant girl? Like, what? Like, people are sick. People are really sick in their head. These are church people now. And first of all, that wasn't even her dude. She had another dude, right? And he had a girlfriend, right? So that was just somebody she was messing with. I can't stress that enough. This was not her boyfriend, people. This is just somebody she was laid up with. He had a girlfriend, and that girlfriend contacted me. He was with this girl. The real girlfriend he was with for 3 years. The girl from my church was just a piece of butt. Get right? So people knew that, and they still didn't care. Then on top of that, she was 15, he was 23. Again, people didn't care about that. This is 2008. So all this R. Kelly stuff, and everybody's like, oh, it's wrong for a grown man to be with a young girl. Back in 2008, nobody saw a problem with it. I'm telling you. So it's just interesting how people have changed their perspective. So yeah, like I said, you know, all this R. Kelly stuff, and everybody want to talk about, you know, he wrong for marrying Aaliyah. Listen, that was the 90s, but in the 2000s, I'm telling you, 2007, 2008, you had plenty of grown men that were dating teen girls and nobody saw nothing wrong with it. I'm telling you, because when this incident was happening, me and my friend were the only ones to say, yo, he's 23 years old, she 15. Nobody's saying that that's wrong. Like, he's wrong for dealing with a 15-year-old. Period. She shouldn't have been messing with him at all. But I'm the villain because, oh, please. So, yeah, that happened. And it was the dumbest decision that I made because that's how everybody found out. So they were forced to choose sides. And so the pastor made an announcement because I remember like pastor made an announcement and he's like, oh, da 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 da. And when we came back from the precinct, he's like, oh, they let her go. Like it just didn't make sense because if you're on the pulpit, you shouldn't be relaying messages. And it was the lead keyboard artist or keyboard musician that was doing that. And it was just stupid because it's like, there's a service. You shouldn't interrupt service because somebody's getting arrested. So my father didn't like that. And yeah, it just didn't make sense. People were choosing sides and they didn't know the whole story. It's this lady, her name is Betty. She's an Israeli now, you know. And I'll never forget when my friend told me what she said. Whole grown woman picking sides, like, oh, she slept with her dude, so she deserved what she got. Whole grown woman saying this. She's like my parents' age. Like, how you sound? This man was 23 with a real girlfriend, and this girl from church was just a piece of butt. So what are you talking about? And it was a one-time thing, and I didn't even want to be like that with him. He was harassing me. Like, people had the story completely wrong. It was just so crazy. But I'm happy that happened because it like brought light to everybody's eyes about that church. Because after that happened, everybody started leaving because different things. And then that keyboard guy that went and told the pastor whatever, they fired him. So that was his karma. Like, you a little woman. Why are you... This is... It was stupid. It was a stupid quarrel between two teenagers. I was the adult. I was 19. My youth pastor comes up to me and said, no. He was like, I said, if you got something to say, don't go to my parents, come to me. He was like, oh, you still live with your parents. I said, it doesn't matter. So if I was 30 years old living with my parents, you gonna go up to my parents? No, you can come up to me. I'm 19, I'm an adult, you can ask me. The whole scenario was just, it showed people's true colors. It really did. It really did. And that's what told me that was not the church for me to be at all. And the only reason why I was there is because my youth pastor, he made it fun. But as far as like the spirit in there, it was all messed up. They had no type of sense at all. You know, so many people left or whatever because different things was happening. Some people left for vain reasons, you know, but it was just like a wow experience. Like, you know, a fight in church or not even in church. It was in my parents' elevator. And I couldn't defend myself because she ran. Like, she dead was like, and ran. I was so mad I was so upset. Like, that's a real punk move. Real punk move. And years later, I seen her on, she actually was in a single black female in a movie. She was like an extra. I think she had like one line. But she's doing her thing. And I actually sent her a message on Facebook like, congratulations, you doing your thing. You live in Atlanta or whatever. So she's like modeling and acting. She doing, you know, big things. And she never responded. I don't know if she's still mad at me, but that happened so long ago. You know, we should have been able to move past it. But for her to hold on to that, I think is stupid because this wasn't even her real boyfriend. And he had a girlfriend, so how you gonna be mad at the other chick? You know, I was wrong because she did look to me. I didn't realize how much she looked to me as a friend, but it happened so long ago. So, but whatever. But I said all that to say this, to my ladies, no matter what age you are, from you could be a teenager, or like me, I was 18, and then I turned 19 when, you know, the real girlfriend contacted me. If you don't want to do something with a guy, don't do it. Don't make him feel like you have to. And I thought, well, if I gave him what he wanted, he'd leave me alone. No, that just made it worse. He was harassing me. He would call me from private number. And my parents did nothing about it. All they said was, oh, well, especially my mom. She was like, oh, you deserve to get jumped. You deserve to get beat up. And I made the mistake of telling them everything. And that's another thing what I wanted to tell people. Be very discreet on who you tell what to, because people will literally take what you tell them and twist it, even your own family. So me being the only child, I didn't have siblings to talk to. I wasn't close to my cousins at the time. I became close to my cousins in my adult age. But in my childhood, they were just people that I saw at functions. They were just people that I saw at Christmas or Easter or whatever. But I would tell people it's better to talk to a stranger than your family sometimes, you know, because you know you'll never see that person again, you know. So, you know, yeah, like that whole experience, you know, I wish somebody would have told me, yo, you don't have to do that. You don't like him, don't do that. I didn't have nobody to tell me that. All I had somebody to tell me was, don't do nothing until you married. What kind of advice is that? You know, I didn't have any, like, guidance. I didn't have anybody to tell me anything. I was giving advice to people. I was telling my friend, you need to get with your new dude because her old dude was just, you know, messing with her. You know, so, yeah, I'm telling all my ladies, my young girls, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. Don't let no man intimidate you into having sex. Don't do it, because you'll live in regret. He'll make you feel dirty. He'll make you, you know, he'll start harassing you. And you can't just sleep with everybody. And you can't just hit it and quit it with everybody, because some of these guys do have mental health issues. And he was one of them. And he called me so much that his real girlfriend contacted me and was like, is that his baby? Because that's how much he was calling me. She was like, and she said it, I can't understand why he's so into you. Why is he calling you so much? I said, I don't know, but do you see the messages? Like, I was happy she called me, because I'm like, do you see the messages? Do you see me telling him to leave me alone? She's like, yes, I do. I said, I'm happy you see that. I'm not the villain here. I'm not the one calling your man. Your man is calling me. You know, and that's why I urge all women of any age. Your man is stepping out on you. Your man is cheating on you. Please investigate the situation, because he might be harassing her. Okay? It's not always, oh, well, somebody just swindled their way into your house like she's a seductress. No. Sometimes it's your man is crazy and he's forcing his way into people's lives. Try to investigate the situation before you just hop on someone and try to find out whatever. And for her calling me, and I said that to her, why are you calling me? You already know that he's the aggressor. You already know he's the one that's been harassing me. Tell him, can you please tell him to stop calling me? I said that to her. Please tell him to stop calling me. He's been doing this since November of last year. We're in May, 2008, so it was just a crazy experience. And to my ladies, yeah, just do what you want to do. Don't let no man tell you what to do. And that's for psycho number 3. Now, psycho number 4. Okay, I wanted to briefly talk about male friendships. I've never had, I feel like the only guy that was really truly my friend was my son's godfather. He just had issues that had nothing to do with me. That's the one I told y'all that lied about erectile dysfunction. He was a good person, but he would just cut you off for any little thing. The most recent thing, he cut me off Halloween of last year. He's like, we were talking about PB and Rock, and he's like, oh, blah blah blah, like whatever. But I told him thank you, because I don't want to be friends with a compulsive liar anyway. He just lies about anything. But this particular guy I'm talking about, his name was Darren, and I knew him from City Year. I talk about City Year all the time or whatever. So City Year was a nonprofit, AmeriCorps, created by Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton did do something positive in his life. He created AmeriCorps. So City Year, they call it City Year because you're working in the inner city. Different schools in Brooklyn, Harlem, specifically Harlem because that's the hood, the South Bronx, and Long Island City, right? So I was stationed in East New York, PS 213, and he was stationed 309 in East New York. So he was cool at work. Like, the way he was at work and then outside work was two different people, and it was so scary. So at work, he was a cool dude. He actually hooked up the DJ at my baby shower. Like, we had a very professional relationship, right? He was very cool. So it was over in 2009, and you know, it was over in 2009. We had a graduation at the mayor's office, the mayor's mansion, Gracie Mansion. And so 2010, he makes his move. He tries to holler. I told him I'm not interested. I was single too, but I just told him I'm not interested. Like, he wasn't ugly, but he didn't do it for me. And then I had heard also from a friend from that same job. She said how he slept with her friend and just kind of like hit it and quit it. So I was like, oh, he one of those guys. Like, you know, I mean, we've all hit it and quit it. We've all done it. But the way she was talking was like he like dogged her friend out or whatever. So that was just a snippet of who he was. So he was trying to get with me. I said no. Also, he messed around with my other friend. She told me how they messed around or whatever. It was a one-time thing. So, of course, I'm not going to talk to... This is one of my good friends. I'm not going to talk to somebody she messed with. You know, she's a good friend. She wasn't just a coworker. She was at my son's christening. She actually threw my baby shower. One of them. I had two. She threw one of them. City Year, we were like a family. Like, we were like a family. And so her and I grew apart over the years, but at this moment we're friends. We're really good friends. So I was not about to go mess with somebody she messed with. And plus, his energy was just weird. And he didn't even ask me on a date. He just asked to fuck. And I'm like, no, thank you. So fast forward to 2018. No. Was it 2018? I feel like it was 2017 and then rolled over to 18. Yeah, 2017. One of my friends, we weren't close, but we met at Kingsborough Community College in a community health program. She was having a birthday and I came. And he was there, and I'm like, oh, small world. We have a mutual friend. So him and I kind of reconnected or whatever. I remember her birthday was in June, but I don't know if it was 2017 or 2018. It might have been 2018. It might have been. I feel like it was 2018. Yeah, 2018. So we're there and stuff like that. And this friend, she was just so messed up towards me. And this is what I wanted to tell my women. If your female friend is telling you about a guy, a mutual friend that y'all have, you should be on her side as a woman. And she was not on my side. It was just, I'm gonna tell y'all, I'm gonna get to the story. So, you know, so we're getting acquainted and we're getting friendly, and we go to AC, and he was begging me to go to AC, and I'm like, I saw Little Kim and Remy Ma before, I saw all of them, and he's like, oh, you need to have fun in your life. I'm like, I've had way more fun in my life than you, trust me, I've been there, done that. And he's like begging me to go to this concert in AC. And I'm like, okay, but I need a babysitter. So he had his mom watch my son or whatever. Again, all these people that was performing, I seen them perform before. Dipset, I didn't care for them. They was whack. Fabulous, I saw him before at the Bad Boy reunion. He was good. Remy Ma, I seen at the preliminary for the Beyonce concert or whatever, and then, you know, Lil Kim. So I'm like, all right, whatever. It was kind of redundant. I'm like, I seen these people before, whatever. We had a good time. It was cool. And he's like, he wanted me to touch him. So I did, and I know I shouldn't have done that, but I let him know, like, nothing's gonna go down. I don't see you in that kind of way. And it wasn't even because he had somebody, I just never liked him like that. That's just, you know. Then on top of that, what I wanted to say, he was talking about our mutual friend, saying how he messed around with her, and that's what really, people will be like, well, what is it about him you really didn't like? The way he used to talk about women. He talked about my friend Kiki, he talked about her like she was like some type of hoe, saying, oh, she's a side chick, that's what she deserves, that's what she is, going in on her. And then he was going in on our mutual friend, saying that, oh yeah, I hit it and she's ugly and all this stuff. And I'm like, you saying all this about the women you messed around with. If I mess around with you, you gonna talk about me the same way. Like, I'm not stupid and naive like most females, you know. So I was like, I'm not gonna open my legs to you. And then he tried to say, oh no, you different and I treat you right. And I'm like, no, you not. No, you not. You gonna tell the next bitch, you know, you gonna talk about me, you know. And I never messed with him. And I told our mutual friend, I said, yo, I cut him off because once he came out his face, I had an injury in April of 2018. My iron was very, very low, guys. And I had passed out in my hallway between my closet and my bedroom. It was a very scary moment. So I had to get a brace on my foot. It was just really bad. He tells me, oh, if I would have had a man, that wouldn't have happened. Like, joking about it. So I didn't feel like that was funny at all, you know. And whatchamacallit, he's like, oh, he came out and said it. He's like, oh, you know, the only reason why I'm cool with you or friendly with you is because I want to fuck you. I said, as of now, Darren, do not call my phone. This friendship is now over. Like, because how can we be friends and I know that that's what you want? You're verbalizing it to me. You're coming out your face. You're saying all these negative things about women. Like, why would I want to fuck with you after this, right? So after that, I tell our mutual friend, I'm like, yo, Darren, something's wrong with him. Like, he's bugged out. He was talking about you. He's saying how you're a hoe, you're ugly, all this and that, right? So she goes to him and she comes back to me and he's like, well, he said you're trash and this and that. I was like, why are y'all talking about me? Like, me and her are out now. She's like, oh, your friend was talking about you. Who's my friend? She's like, Darren. I'm like, Darren is not my friend. And he shouldn't be your friend either. He's not a good person, Felicia. Like, you know, I'm like, why are you friends with him? I said, listen. And she came out and said it before I said it. She's like, oh, you know, I'm not going to invite him to the party, this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. She ends up inviting him anyway. And I told her straight up, like, you can't put me in that situation. So after I delete him and stuff, guys, This dude blows up my phone. I mean, you would think we was in a relationship. And I told another coworker the scenario. He was like, damn, you sure y'all wasn't dating? I said, no, we was not dating. He's crazy. He started blowing up my phone. He left a message, like, not really threatening, but he was like, yo, I ain't even do nothing. Pick up your fucking phone. Da 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 da. So finally, I'm in the street in Manhattan. I think I was on my way to an interview or something. And this white man was standing next to me like, oh, are you okay? And I screamed. I said, stop calling my fucking phone. I'm gonna call the fucking police. Stop it! And the white guy was like, miss, are you okay? And I'm like, I am now. Like, I stood up for myself and it felt good. And I got that from my old coworker, because remember I told you the old man from my old job, he was like, she was like, you know, if somebody keep calling you, just tell them you're gonna call the police and they'll stop. So I always remember that, and that happened in 2015. So when this incident happened in 2018, I remembered what she said and I tried it and it felt so good. He stopped calling me. And yeah, it was just crazy. And then it was hurtful because our mutual friend, she basically took his side, and I didn't understand that. I'm like, this guy is harassing me. He talked about you. He has no respect for women. Why are you friends with him? So fast forward to was it last year or the year before? I feel like it had to be the year before, because last year everything was open. 2021, COVID was still like going on and stuff like that. I feel like it could have been last year, because I remember telling her I'm about to graduate, da 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 da. I feel like, well, anyway, she was having a boat ride, and I wasn't really ready to like go out like that because COVID was still going around and everything like that. And then I look on the list and his name is there. And I'm like, Felicia, why do you still fuck with this guy? He don't care nothing about you. He was talking about you. He has no respect for women. Why is he still in your life? And I told her straight up, I said, you know what went down between me and him. You know what went down. I cannot attend. I'm sorry. So after I tell her that, she deletes me. So it's like she was never my friend, because at the end of the day, as a woman, you should understand where I'm coming from. Why would I come to an event to a guy that was harassing me via phone? Why would I come to an event and I know he's going to be there? I don't know what he's going to do. He might try to chase me around the boat. Like, his mental health is not all intact, obviously. And the last thing he said before all of that, he's like, oh, I love you. And I'm like, you love me? What is wrong with you? Like, you know, so he literally was obsessed with me. And I remember telling my other friend, she's like, oh my God, he's obsessed with you. I'm like, yeah. I don't know why I just attract all these crazy dudes. Mind you, me and him never had sex, y'all. Me and Darren never had sex. Never had sex. The most I did with him, and I regret it, is I did touch him. You know, he was like, oh, touch me. And I did touch him. So he felt like, oh, that's Hope. She touched me. Like, you're fucking nuts to think that, you know, it's crazy. But I didn't kiss him. I didn't do any of that. And I let him know, like, hey, you know, I wasn't interested in, and for me, I'm like a dude in that regard. I don't change my mind. If I didn't like you in 2010, I'm not going to like you in 2018. I'm not going to like you ever. Like, there's a reason why I don't fucking like you. Like, when I don't like a man, it's a reason. Either I have a gut feeling or you just ain't shit. It's always a reason why I don't like someone. Right? Just like with that other dude, the girl from church. You know, it wasn't because he was her dude. I can care less about that. She wasn't a friend of mine. But he was stink. His breath was stink. And look, he had a girlfriend for 3 years the whole time. His character is what I wasn't attracted to. Right? So and then he was harassing me. He was demanding. He was like, you know, I don't like any dude that's demanding. You're supposed to be romantic, not demanding. You demanding, that means you don't get it from people you want to get it from. You know, so, you know, but fast forward to, this was last year. This was like, because I remember telling Jelani. And so he pops up in my neighborhood and he looks high as a kite, Darren. He has a mask on and he's looking crazy. And so he calls out to me, Crystal, Crystal. And I keep walking. I ignore him. And so he stops calling. And he was right around my building. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what the fuck is he doing over here? Like, you know, he knew where I lived from years ago, but I don't think he would remember. But it was just weird that he was just in my neighborhood, just walking around. And thank God he didn't follow me to my apartment. Like, he got the hint. Once he was calling out to me and I didn't respond, I didn't look in his direction, I was scared. My heart was pounding. I'm like, oh my God, he's in my neighborhood. What is he over here for? And he just looked really high. He looked, and like I said about Brownsville, people who come over here, they come over here to get drugs. So if anybody tells you, oh, I'm going to Brownsville real quick, they come in here to do a transaction. I'm telling you. All my ladies, all my fellas, if you know anybody that says, oh yeah, I be in the Ville, they're on drugs. You know, no cap. But yes, that's my cycle number 3. And cycle number 4 is another thing I wanted to talk about too. He wasn't necessarily a psycho, but he was a weirdo. I feel like I meet weirdos all the time, but these are the extra 2 weirdos. So when I was working at Steiner Studios, the last shift that I worked before I left was the overnight shift. My parents didn't want to pick up my son no more, and they didn't really want to watch him no more. So my mom, she had issues with putting him to bed, and you know, she didn't want to do it. I had to do all of that before work. So I worked the overnight shift, and it was this guy, I'll never forget it. And it just taught me that in the future, don't be afraid to make moves or be bold, and don't be afraid to speak up for yourself, because I was that female. You know, some people might watch this and they be like, well, you should have been more verbal with these guys. And it takes a learning experience to really stand up for yourself. So I didn't say anything to my supervisor, because what they would have done is they would have said, okay, you can't do this shift, right? So this is my job. So my job was to, you know, basically check IDs, and if somebody didn't belong, don't let them in, right? So this particular guy, I had 2 braids or whatever, and the guy in the car, he was complimenting me on my braids and this and that and the third. He was like, let me get your number. I said, no. He said, he kept asking, and then he finally said, if you don't give me your number, I'm not moving my car. And I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, I felt like I couldn't tell my supervisor, because they would have looked at it like, okay, you can't do your job, you can't work here. That's what I thought would have happened. They would have been like, you gotta pick another shift, Crystal, or you just can't work here no more. So this is my job, and thank God I found another job. I'm gonna talk about that in another video. Asshole supervisors, I'll talk about, you know, because I have a couple of stories with that too. The guy was like, if you don't give me your number, I'm not moving my car. I'm like, oh my God. I didn't want to call my supervisor, because that would have caused attention, and then it looks like I can't do the job. So I'm like, okay, right, da-da-da-da. He's like, this better be the right number too. So he calls my phone. He's like, all right. And then he moves his car, whatever. So the next day he's hitting me up, and I let him know right away. I said, listen, I'm not interested in you. I just gave you my number so you could move your car. He goes, oh, why are you taking your frustrations out on me? I said, what are you talking about? When you came to the gate and try to get my number sent, I said, first of all, you need to understand rejection and the word no. No means no. What is wrong with you? Like, what the hell? And so he's like, oh, whatever you going through, you just taking it out on me. I said, no, I am not. I told you to your face that I was not interested. If you remember, you forced me to give me your number. You said you wouldn't move your vehicle. I said, as you could see where I work, my job is to control cars in the parking lot. That's my whole job description. You would not move your car. I didn't want to cause a scene because then they would have called the police. Then it would have been like Crystal can't do her job. Like, I broke it down to him. Like, you know why I gave you my number. I gave you my number so you could move your fucking car. Please do not call me no more. Please do not text me. Capiche? Capash. So he's like, oh, da-da-da. I was like, I don't give a fuck what you think. And that's when I was like, listen, don't call me. Simple. Don't text me. I am not interested. Fuck wrong with you? So luckily, he got the hint. Thank God he didn't continue. So good. Then another scenario, this is when I was working in downtown Brooklyn, pandemic. This is, I removed myself from the situation because I knew that the only thing they would have done is removed him and he could have popped up or whatever. So it was this guy, I kid you not, he looked like Herman Munster. He looked like Herman Munster, y'all. If y'all don't know Herman Munster from the Munsters, he looked crazy. He was like the dark version of Herman Munster, so just very hideous. And it wasn't even just his look that I didn't like. He smelled like ass and weed, y'all. Like he used to stink every day trying to holler at me. So he didn't even say, let's go to dinner, none of that. He just got to the point like, oh, he want to fuck. And I'm like, do you not realize that this is sexual harassment? Like, we're at work. You have a uniform on and I do too. And when I look back on it, I'm wrong for like talking to him. Because the moment he came out his face, I should have cursed him out. I really should have. And I blame myself for engaging with him. But I did that because I was trying to maintain professionalism. So I was in Children's Place, downtown Brooklyn. Y'all know downtown Brooklyn, whatever. So I don't know if the Children's Place is still there. I don't know. But I was working inside Children's Place. And his job was to walk around the vicinity or whatever. So he would come in and he would talk to me for up to an hour. And one time he was like, oh, you just using me for conversation? Some stupid shit he said. And I'm like, what? Like, and I let him know off the bat. He's like he wanted my number. I said, I'm not going to give you my number because I'm not attracted to you. Like, I don't want you to think anything. I don't want you to think I'm interested in you in any way at all. Because with these guys, what I've noticed, even if you give your number, they feel like, oh, she must be feeling me. She gave me her number. Like, no. So he going to say, oh, we friends on the internet. I said, what are you talking about? We was not friends on Facebook. What happened was I let him message me through Messenger, right? So I didn't even let him follow me because I didn't want him to be stalking my page. He already expressed to me that he wanted to be intimate. So I'm not going to let you look at my page to be liking all my pictures and then my dude is going to be like, whatever, you know. And it wasn't even and I told him straight up. He's like, oh, it's because you got a dude. I said, no, to be honest with you, if I was single, I still would not talk to you. I let him know that. I said, you're not my style. I said, what do you do for fun? You smoke, right? And you chill in the hood. I like to go to concerts. I like nice shit. He shows me pictures of going to chain restaurants. I said, I don't go to chain restaurants. Me and you have nothing in common. Like, I'm telling him the truth. Like, yo, we don't have anything in common, bro. We don't. Like, you're going to piss me off just by where you want to go to chill. Like, we have nothing in common. Like, I'm not going to waste your time, and I'm not going to allow you to waste mine. So, you know, I'm like, he's like, I made the mistake of telling him that I lived in Brownsville, Van Dyke Projects. So he's like, oh yeah, I'm from there, and I went to PS 327. Everybody knows that that school is horrible, not just behavior wise, but you can't learn anything there. Like that, those are like really bad kids. So he's like, oh, you from my town and da da da. He's like, he live in Star City. I doubt it, but he was like, he lived in Star City. I'm like, oh, that's nice. And then he starts showing me pictures of other females that he talked to. I said, how you bag them bitches? Because they bad. Like, okay. His baby mother, he was like, how, oh, she never worked. She was on welfare and stuff. I said, well, serves you right. I said, she's a pretty woman. Like, she's beautiful. Like, you really thought that you could get with that and didn't have to pay for it? I'm just saying, like, you need to stick to your own lane. Like, I'm giving him advice. Like, I'm not saying you gotta go after ugly bitches, but you have to understand, like, light-skinned chicks, and I speak for most of my light-skinned sisters, if you're not cute, we're gonna try to see what we can get out of you. And that's just what it is. Like, you can't be looking like Herman Monster. And his kid's mom was bad. Like, she, you know, I give honor to whom honor is due. I'm like, yo, she a bad bitch, so of course she's gonna use you for your money. Like, that's just natural. Like, look at her. Like, now she's wrong for living with you all them years and tricking on you. That's wrong, because karma could come her way and she might fall for a nigga, and then that nigga's gonna do that to her. But come on now, look at her. He was showing me other pictures. I said, okay, that's cool. Do they like you? Probably not. So that's how I'm trying to tell him, like, you need to find somebody that look like you so you won't get used. Like, I'm just giving him pointers, like, you know. So I'm like, listen, I'm not like those females. I'm telling you up front that I don't like what I see. I'm not attracted to you. So some people might, oh, that's mean. No, it's not mean, because I've never used a man, never, because I always believe in karma, right? And I know what it feels to be used, so I would never want to do that to somebody, right? So I'm like, yo, I'm just letting you know up front, like, it's not gonna go anywhere. I'm not sleeping with you. I'm not 18 years old where I'm just gonna let a guy force me into something I don't want to do. Like, no, I'm a grown woman and I know what I don't want. Like, I don't want you. He still wasn't getting it. He still was coming up to the store, trying. So eventually, I think I did tell him, did I? Like, I always told him I wasn't interested, but when I saw that it wasn't working, I decided to remove myself from the location. I didn't tell him I was going to a next location. I told my manager, I was like, I can't work Wednesdays no more. And I had a virtual class. That's what I told my manager. I was like, I got a virtual class, so I can't go to downtown no more. I can only do Bay Ridge. Bay Ridge was perfect. Nobody was harassing me. Nobody was coming up to the store, because beside this guy, it was a homeless guy that threatened me. He would go like this, like he gonna punch me in the face. And he used to call me his daughter. So I was dealing with that, y'all. I was dealing with shoplifters, and the sales associates didn't give a fuck. So downtown Brooklyn, I was dealing with a lot of shit. I just got tired of it. I'm like, between my co-worker home in Monster, the homeless guy, and shoplifters, I'm like, I can't do this no more. So when my virtual class came up, I'm like, yes. So I was just doing Bay Ridge. Bay Ridge was so peaceful. I had a manager there. He was cool. The store manager was cool as hell. We used to have really good conversations. He was smart. This nigga left Children's Place and went to CVS, and he making $90,000 a year right now as a store manager. So all my retail people out there, there's hope. And hold on to you, a sales associate. There is hope to build. You could be a store manager, get those years in of experience and you can move on to the next retail store, because that's what he did. He worked at Children's Place for over a decade, and he went to CVS making $90K. This nigga got a high school diploma making $90K. So, but Bay Ridge was cool. Like, once in a while it would be an incident, but nothing I couldn't handle or whatever. But yeah, I removed myself from the location because all they would have did was remove him, and the type of personality, he probably would have popped up like, oh bitch, you did it. So I didn't want to go through that. After that, I remember coming up to downtown Brooklyn, I guess shopping or whatever, and I used to be afraid to bump into him. I don't really go to downtown Brooklyn. There's no reason for me to go to downtown Brooklyn, really. When I shop, I usually go other places. If I do want to go to downtown, I don't care if I bump into him like anymore. Like, I'm not afraid anymore because I know I didn't do nothing wrong. And I want to stress that to my ladies. Like, don't feel like you're doing something wrong when you stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself, you know. But yeah, those are my weirdos and my psycho experiences. I know to stand up for myself, it took me years. Trust me, like, this wasn't overnight. I had to learn to stand up for myself. You know, some people it's just natural with them, but I had to learn that, because you never want a person to, like with Shaheem, when I stood up for myself, he threatened me. You never want that. You know, you want the person to get the idea and whatever. So sometimes you gotta get aggressive. Like, you gotta get ghetto, like, yo, I'm a, you know, you might have to threaten them so they can get the point, right? Like, I threatened Darren. I was like, stop calling my fucking phone before I call the police, period. You know, so, and then he got the hint. You know, he never called me again. So yes, ladies, stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. I know that was 1 hour and 6 minutes. Those are my thoughts.